What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Clear Path podcast episode. We're here talking about the West, our power rankings, kind of our thoughts on it. We just kind of uploaded a video on the East, so we're just doing the same for the West. Nick, how you feeling?
Good, good. I'm pumped for the West. I think it's worse than the East this year, but it's
Interesting. Okay.
close. I mean, just think there's more teams that are probably not trying to win.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think it'll be hard to see or tough to say by the end of the season who's really trying and who's trying to secure some spots for Scoot or Wembanyama. So that might be something to monitor. But yeah, that is fair. There are a lot of clear teams that are just taken, straight up taken.
and then a couple teams that are like cautiously, I wouldn't even, no, they're full on optimistic and they think they can make the playoffs. Like the Kings and the Blazers.
Mhm.
It's going to be tough to get some spots for those teams.
Sure. So let's so just so everyone knows what the deal is here, we're just going to go through our power ranking of the West. We normally start off, we kind of break it up into groups. Most of the time they're in 5-team segments, and then each kind of did it separately, and we're going to compare the two and kind of talk about our differences and what we predict is going to happen this season. So
And
Nick,
their
you want to give?
power rankings, not standings.
Yeah,
So it
power.
takes
Yeah,
into account the playoffs. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of where would we would rank? I guess it's not fully playoffs or fully regular season, but somewhere in between, a combination of the two.
Exactly. So
All
that
right.
way there's no way to quantify it. So we
Yeah,
can never
exactly.
be wrong.
Yeah, well, I was like, yeah. Okay, so you want to give us your bottom five first?
Yes. So bottom five, 15, I don't think we're going to have any issues on. It's the Spurs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I had Thunder at 14. I had the Jazz at 13. Rockets 12. And the poor old Kings are still stuck at 11. Still outside the play-in.
Okay. All right. We basically have the same. I actually have the Jazz at 15, but it's
Okay.
a Jazz 15, Spurs 14. They kind of are interchangeable to me. I just kind of think that both teams are going to be shamelessly trying to lose. I think no one on that roster is going to be on the roster by the end of the season. Like it's going to be like really bad. So I have Jazz 15, Spurs 14, Thunder 13, Rockets 12, and then I have the Trailblazers at 11 instead of the Kings, but I do have the Kings at 10. So I would
Bumping
say
up
it's
the
all about,
Kings.
yeah, I would say, I'm not too married to this idea, but I do believe that this group is obviously the bad group. These teams are going to be bad.
I just had the Blazers one ahead of you, so we're not far off there.
Yeah.
Let's touch on these teams because I think there's still fun teams in here.
Yeah.
In a sense, besides the Spurs. The Spurs are a tough look, man.
I think the
I don't
Jazz
know
are going to be
who's
bad.
okay. So here's my thing about the Jazz. Like, yes, it's a bad team, but there are a lot of like guys on this team. Like, and yeah, they could all be pieces or whatever. I think the way that Danny kind of goes about it, because we saw him in Boston, is he doesn't just blow up everything immediately. There's the big moves which have already happened, right? And that was like the KG Paul Pierce trade, right? And then he kind of like he looks at each player as an asset, and if the asset he's being offered for is better, he'll trade. But he's not exactly like a race to the bottom guy. Like the Celtics held on to Rondo for 3 years too long because they never thought they got value for him. So I wouldn't be surprised if guys like, I mean, I think Sexton is going to stay there, but I wouldn't be surprised if guys like Beasley and Markkanen and THT are still on the team at the end of the year, which means like it's a weird team. It doesn't make sense, but there's still a lot of NBA guys, but the Spurs are not really in that same boat.
I'm surprised you. So I understand that. I think like guys like Conley or like Clarkson are gone, and I could see like okay, they're starting. What is it, Walker Kessler? They got in the Minnesota trade, and all these young dudes kind of see what sticks. But I think that combination of see what sticks, that roster I think is worse than the Spurs roster. I think that like Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell. I think those guys are just better. And I also have a little bit more faith in the Spurs that they'll be so well coached that they'll just win some games they shouldn't win. I mean, we're picking nits here. Like, I think these two teams are going to be the worst teams in the league, so it doesn't really matter. But
I'm with you there. I just think like there's just a lot of talent. Like on the Spurs, there's a lot of talent on the Jazz. On the Spurs, like who's gonna average 20 points?
I mean, Keldon
Who's
Johnson,
gonna score?
Pirtle. You know, like Pirtle.
Kelvin. Okay. Like, are you gonna tell me like Doug McDermott is gonna get a lot of shots?
I mean, Pirtle,
There's gonna
Pirtle.
be chucking.
Pirtle could be like 15 and 10 this year. Yeah, Jakob Pirtle,
Yeah,
maybe.
man, it just gets real gamey really quickly. And the Jazz still have like it's Conley set like Sexton will average 27 this year. Sexton
Yeah,
will just like I I
that's fair.
think the Jazz are gonna be a little surprising as like they're gonna have a couple more wins than people think.
Sure.
And everyone just wants to put them in the bottom immediately. Like the Spurs have almost no pieces to move forward with. You have Shohan, you have Vassell, Pirtle's probably a backup, and then Keldon Johnson. And that's kind of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, sure. I mean, but actually, the team I really am most excited by in this group is the OKC Thunder, and I think that if Chet wasn't hurt for such an extended period of time, I would have them a little higher up. Like, I think that, I mean, I think this team is almost too not too good, but they just have a lot of good young players that are going to take a step forward, and I think they could really, really be good, like competitive as competitive as they can be while they're trying to tank for a generational talent. Because I do think that Presti would be dumb to do all this tanking and then not and then give up now that when Wembanyama's here. So I do think that'll happen. But like Giddy is one of my favorite players to watch. I love Giddy. He's kind of just exactly everything you want Ben Simmons to be in offense. Shea is a real player. Is definitely a borderline all star if they let him play. I mean, even guys like Lou Dort, that's a guy that's like the sixth, seventh man on a real playoff team. And then they just have like a lot of young talent. They got Darius Baisley, Alexei Pokushevsky. I understand that these names aren't like, they're not world beaters, but it's just interesting. I kind of like where they are. I think they'll be exciting to watch.
I hear what you're saying. I don't really agree. I think we're overrating this team. Like, yes,
No.
so you have Shea, Giddy, Dort, you gotta pay. Shea has been here forever, and it's like, okay, how many years are you just gonna be like Shea sit out the last 25 games? We're trying to tank. Chet hopefully comes back healthy. So you have some pieces. Outside of that, I'm not super excited about Pokushevsky. I don't know about the guy they drafted, Williams. And it's just like I know everyone loves Presti and oh, he's got all these draft picks and whatever and like all this stuff. I don't know. At some point, you got to field a competitive team around. And he does a really good job at getting stars, right? He's always done a good job at getting stars. Those Westbrook and Durant teams were really lean around the edges. Like they had no one else for so many years that like I don't know. Let's put the brakes on like Presti's the greatest GM of all time. He's really good at drafting stars. He can never put a competent team around Westbrook and Durant, made one of the worst trades of all time. And then they've been a bottom feeder and like semi-competitive in the one CP3 year. And I know the picks are all great, but if they're all 27 and 28, you can't package all of those up to go get one, which they've been trying to do for years and they haven't been able to do it. So like
I mean,
let's take a second here. There's not that much NBA talent on this team. There's a couple good
I
guys.
don't know. I don't know if that's true. I think that they got just as much talent. They have as much NBA talent as like I think the Thunder. I think like I genuinely think they have a lot of good young players. I think they have guys that can be rotational pieces. They're just kind of waiting for a star. They're waiting in the draft. And I mean, yeah, that he hasn't done a lot putting together a team, but that's a lot of it that's by design. That's kind of the way that you kind of have to operate as a small market team. He's looking to draft these kind of guys. I mean, if he gets Wembanyama or Scoot next year and you just slot either one of them into this roster, I think that's automatically a top 5 seed in the West, genuinely, if we think that everyone's going to take a step
Ooh,
forward. I mean, you would
I'm
you
just not there
rather?
on them yet. I'm just not there. I love Shea. I love Giddy. Dort, I think is like he gets a lot of opportunity on this team, and they're gonna have to pay him sooner rather than later. You
Well,
have
they
Chet
yeah.
who's hurt. I don't know. It's fine.
I mean, think about this.
It's
Was
been
what
a
I'm thinking.
while.
It has been a while, but I don't know. They're a team I'm looking forward to watching, but I understand they're not going to be particularly good. And then I guess we both had the Rockets in here. I mean, I think the Rockets would like to take a step up. I think the Rockets would like to be what I think the Orlando Magic are going to be this year, or kind of similar to what the Cleveland Cavaliers were last year. Kind of like a frisky team, a nice couple of nice young guards that might be able to take a step forward. I mean, Jalen Green seems primed for a most improved candidate. You know, they got a lot of big men. I like Şengün. I like Garuba. They're both nice, skilled bigs in offense. Jabari Smith seems like he's going to be really, really good on defense, which is really hard to say for a rookie. So that's kind of promising. But kind of what it comes down to is the infrastructure and kind of the DNA of who Jalen Green is as a player. I think it's going to play a huge role in how successful they are. I mean, Jalen Green hasn't really showed us. I mean, it was his rookie year, so I'm not going to put too much into it. But just the kind of player he is, he's not the kind of guy that's making opportunities for others. He's kind of on his own. They don't really have a point guard like that. They kind of need a giddy type to pair along with Jalen Green, and they got a lot of guys that need the ball in their hands to make a difference. And so I'm just kind of worried about what that means when we're trying to win basketball games.
Yeah, you really brought it to my big issue with this team because I do like Green. I'm not all the way there on Jabari yet, but I think he'll be, like you said, good on defense. I like Şengün. And it will be up to Green, but I think kind of as you were alluding to, I think he's more Devin Booker than he is, like a Garland or someone who moves the ball.
Exactly. Yeah.
So why is Kevin Porter Jr. here still? I
Yeah.
get like, okay, he was kind of like, he had these issues and you're like, okay, we have nothing on the team. Let's pick him up now. But now that you have Jalen Green here, I don't want Kevin Porter Jr. on this team because he's a shoot first guard too, who's always had these issues. I don't know. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know what's going on, but he's always had these kind of issues. And do you want that around a young guy like Green and Smith, where like he's like almost the veteran here besides Eric Gordon? So yeah,
this is a team that. I mean, yeah, this is a team like if they drafted Dyson Daniels, that would make so much sense. Like this is a team that could really use a player like that, like a mover, and so I just don't really understand. You're right. Like, unless Jalen Green shows us that he's a playmaker this year, he's willing to pass and he's going to play point, I don't know where they're going.
And I don't know if playing point guard is even best for him. What I would do is like get a veteran point guard to just like bridge the gap until you can find something. Like go get Conley from the Jazz. That's not going to cost you a ton. Guy will move the ball, play good defense, and kind of help out these guys. And I think with that, they're not going to win a ton of games, but they'll be competitive and they're starting to build something for sure. So I'm optimistic about the Rockets' future.
Yeah, I'm not sure also how much they're gonna tank to start off the year. I feel like they want to be competitive and see what they have out of these players. And with so many teams trying to lose, I think that might kind of play into a little bit. They might have a higher win total than what we're expecting. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Kings and Blazers.
Yeah, I mean you can I'm a little higher on the Kings. I mean, we can talk about the Kings first. I just think there's a lot of talent on this team sneakily. Like, I don't know if we can discount. Like, what do you think about Keegan Murray?
I think he'll be good. I feel like there's been a lot of positive buzz about him. I don't really have strong feelings either way on him.
I mean, I was looking at these rosters, and the reason I have the Kings above the Trailblazers is I just think the Kings are more talented. I think the Trailblazers have like a terrible roster. And I don't have a lot of faith in Dame coming back healthy. And we've already seen Dame Lillard and Anthony Simons. It was Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum, and we know that how that turned out and how that ended. And so, yeah, I know. I think Sabonis is good. I think Keegan's going to be a good pro. I think De'Aaron Fox is he has got his flaws, but he's a solid enough. He's a borderline all-star. He's in that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander level of player. And yeah, so I'm not quite sure how they're gonna lose games. I'm not sure if everyone else is losing. I think they're clearly better than the teams that are trying to lose.
Yeah, I the only thing about the Kings that this is a very Kingsy roster, right? There's
Yeah.
a couple there's a couple too many guys with like the same skill set. When you look at like, okay, if you had Terrence Davis, did you need Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter? Couldn't
Yeah.
we have done one of those guys? So you draft Davion Mitchell to be like the fourth guard on this team.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Harrison Barnes is still here. It's fine. I'm gonna bet on the infrastructure that they'll find some way to not make the play in.
Okay.
And the Blazers, for me, the only thing I do think, yeah, I mean the CJ and Dame combo couldn't get you all the way there, but Simon's is really good. Dame is really good. They'll figure it out. They're not going to play any defense, but just having those two guys, I think, puts you ahead of Sacramento, even if Sacramento is more talented on paper, which they probably are.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I don't know. I think with the Trailblazers, it's also like a lot of we've seen this before. I mean, it's the Nurkic. I mean, they replace like Larry Nance is the Josh Hart. Like it's all the same. Like it feels like I've seen this before, and I kind of see how this ends. And I almost feel like they're more inclined to trade away Damian Lillard and just ride with Shaden Sharp and Anthony Simons and a bunch of picks and see where that goes. Like if you told me by the end of the season Damian Lillard was on the New Orleans Pelicans, I wouldn't be shocked. Like
I hear you. I'm definitely more optimistic about the Kings' future than the Blazers' future. But I think the Blazers, when you have Grant, Simons, and Lillard, the Grant thing is a little weird because he wanted to be the number one guy and then gets traded, and now he's probably the 3. Some nights the 4, or Nurkic is going to be out of it, and they don't really play a ton of defense, and it's like, but I think I trust the Blazers infrastructure more. I trust that if Dame is healthy, I think that Blazers team is up there. If Dame isn't healthy, that Blazers team is going to be in pretty rough shape.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, let's move on to our next group, which is going to be our 10 through 6. And so I'll start
excited
here.
for this group.
Yeah, so this is where a couple of hot takes are coming. So I got the Kings at 10.
Yep.
I got the Lakers at 9. Got the Timberwolves at 8. The Dallas Mavericks at 7, and the Denver Nuggets at 6.
Oh, wow.
So let's see what I'd assume that you're not too aligned with me here.
So I'm actually not that far off. I had the Blazers at 10. I also had the Lakers at 9. I had the Mavericks at 8, and I really wanted to put them higher, but that team is not great around Luka.
Yeah.
I had the Grizzlies at 7.
Wow.
And I had the Timberwolves at 6.
Wow. The Grizzlies at 7. Holy crap. Okay. Wow. I mean, all right. We'll get to that. But all right, we should probably start with the Lakers. I mean, it's just not that good of a roster. That's
terrible.
what it is.
It's just an overstatement.
That's literally the entire. Like, if it wasn't LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and this was just like normal if this was I don't even know example. If this was
Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Sure, yeah. If this is Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, if this is Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they'd be lower for me. It's because I'm so afraid to bet against LeBron. I'm ready for the AD bounce back year, and I factor that in, and I still can't put them higher than 9.
It's hard.
I can't see it.
These other teams are all better than that. All the other teams ahead of them are better.
They're just better.
I mean, here's a fun game.
Yeah.
How many games would this team win if they didn't have AD and LeBron? Would they get to 16? Would they get to 16 wins?
This team would be better off just tanking for Wembanyama, but they don't have their pick because they traded it for freaking Russell Westbrook or in the AD trade. And so, yeah, I mean, I think just out of necessity, the Lakers are going to have to make some sort of move because LeBron resigned there, and you got to imagine he wouldn't have resigned if there wasn't some sort of promise about moving the 2027, 2029 picks. And they just don't have much of incentive to lose. They don't have any of their picks. Their superstars are old. Like, so I just have to imagine they're going to start winning a couple of games, but that roster is so bad. It's just so bad. I mean, Lonnie Walker is going to be playing like 25, 30 minutes for them. That's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you have one above average playmaker, and it's LeBron. AD, like, it's not. AD is one of those guys, like, he's great and when he's healthy, but he's one of
Yeah.
those guys I just wouldn't really want on my team because of that. I don't think he really has that drive. I think he's kind of like a little aloof. He's kind of a weird dude. And LeBron like buddied up to him because he was like, all right, this is gonna be the best way to win a championship. Because no one else wanted to come to him in LA. So he goes and gets the guy from New Orleans who like is very impressionable and LeBron, oh, okay. And it worked. It worked for a year, and now I just don't see the path to this team getting significantly better. Maybe you can talk someone into getting the Westbrook deal, but then all right, so instead of being a 9 seed, you're like a 6. But at the same time, it's
What do you
like
do?
there are three guys in sports I never want to bet against. I never want to bet against Brady. I never want to bet against Patrick Mahomes, and I never want to bet against LeBron. Those are like my 3 rules. And at the same time, I feel like I'm giving them a boost by putting them at the
Yeah,
9 seed
I
or the
agree. I
9
mean,
in the power rankings.
if we just pencil in, let's say LeBron's 28, 10 and 8 this year, and then AD is 27, 13, 5 assists, 5 steals, or what 5 blocks or whatever. I still think this is exactly where I'd put them. If you told me right now that's what I'd get out of those 2 players for 60 games for both guys, I don't know if they can be better than 9, genuinely, just because of how bad the roster is. Like
Yeah, I mean, we saw
it's
LeBron
so
had to do
bad.
everything last year.
Yeah.
And, I think something underrated too. Okay, so you have this 2 seasons with AD and LeBron. You had last year where they missed the play-in, and you had them winning the championship. In that year that they won the championship, that was the bubble year, so everyone got to rest up. It was super weird. You had a young Nuggets team that they beat that wasn't really ready for it. The Warriors were out that year. The Clippers imploded, and you had like a Miami Heat team that was missing Dragic.
Mhm.
So it wasn't the most. It wasn't like they went through a murderer's row of competitors that year.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at championship versus miss the play-in, I think they're probably closer to miss the play-in than they are to a championship team.
100%.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I honestly don't know if there's much more to say than that. It's just a bad roster. And then so did you had the Mavericks here, right? You didn't I don't remember hearing the Timberwolves out of you. Did you
you
say
did not do
Timberwolves?
the Timberwolves.
Wow.
No, no,
Okay.
yeah, the Timberwolves were 6. Sorry, the Timberwolves
Oh,
were
Timberwolves are
6.
6. Okay. So I had the Timberwolves 8. We can talk about Timberwolves now, maybe. I mean, huge trade on paper, kind of an awful trade. First, I mean, they gave up 4 picks for Rudy Gobert. That's really tough for someone that's not going to be a top 3 option in your offense. I mean, I don't know if I mean, yes, he is. I think oftentimes he's extremely underrated. He changes the defense. I mean, listen, he wins Defensive Player of the Year 3 times in a row. You can't do it by accident, and he is a game-changing, altering defender. Changes the way that players attack the paint. But at the end of the day, this is a ball-driven league, and they're going to go as far as Anthony Edwards takes them. And so that's why I think that despite this Rudy Gobert all-in trade, I need to see more out of Anthony Edwards. We got to see him take a step if we're going to see any progression out of this team. I mean, besides that, the roster construction, get 2 big men, already not great. I understand Cat takes like 8 threes a game. He's basically on the perimeter on offense, but still, he does his best work in the post. Um, And so yeah, I don't know how good Anthony Edwards can be. I don't know what we would I don't know like a D'Angelo Russell, not sure how he fits in this team at all anymore. Because one of them has to play point guard and you kind of want Edwards to have the ball in his hands, but then what does D'Lo do? So maybe we need some sort of D'Lo trade, move for a real point guard. Um, but yeah, it seems like it's a lot of talented players, but not a lot of good roster construction.
Okay. A lot of things here. The D'Lo thing, I hear you, but I also think it's Minnesota, so it's hard to get people want to play there. So if he wants to play there, I think that's probably as good as you're gonna get.
But
I
I'm just
like the
saying, like
go.
a playmaker. Like I don't. It can be worse. He can be a worse player. But
Yeah,
just
yeah. Like you probably would rather have Conley in this spot than D'Lo,
yeah,
right?
I'd rather T.J. McConnell personally.
Oh, jeez. Oh man, that's double. I'm gonna leave that one alone. I don't hate the Gobert trade because you have to take it with a grain of salt. Like, are you really gonna win a championship in Minnesota? Like, maybe, probably not. So you get a guy like they're gonna be. I think they're gonna be awesome in the regular season because you have a couple teams. Like we saw with the Grizzlies last year. You get a young team. You get a new guy that added in. All of a sudden, Cat doesn't have to like be tough. You know what I mean? Like Gobert is going to be down there, get rebounds, clean stuff up for them. I think they're going to be a really good regular season team. So I could have them. I could see. I had them 6. I could see them higher than that in the seeding. Um, but when it comes down to the playoffs, I don't really trust D'Lo and Cat. It's like I think he kind of has that like AD thing where like he wants it, he thinks he wants it, but he doesn't really. He's kind of a little like he gets rattled a little bit easy, and he needs someone to like guide him. And I don't think that's anyone on this team. So I just don't really trust Cat. Um,
Well, that's why I
so
think it's Anthony Edwards. It has to be Anthony Edwards has to be an All NBA player if they're going to be a top 4
yeah, yeah.
team. Like that just has to be what it is.
And I'm conscious of there's this thing with 2 guys here that I'm conscious of. I'm very conscious of it for Anthony Edwards, and I'm also very conscious of it for Ja too, where
Mm-hmm.
we love these players when they first come into the league, right? They can do no wrong. Oh my God, this is amazing. And then you lose in the playoffs once or 2 times. And then we start to pick you apart and we start to point out all your flaws. And then all of a sudden, you're not the golden child anymore. And this
Mm-hmm.
happened with Tatum. This happened with Devin Booker. Like, it's going to start sooner rather than later with Anthony Edwards. So that's something I'm very conscious of. Um, yeah, I mean, I think they probably this is going to be as good as this team is going to get unless Anthony Edwards takes a huge step up. So
Yeah, and the thing is like it's not that I don't have faith he can take that step, but it's a really big step. Like once again, like we were talking with LeBron and AD thing. I mean, I think Anthony Edwards will get better. I think he will establish himself as the best player in this team, but it's really got to be like 25, 7 and 5, or like, he's got to like establish himself as a playmaker, as a guy that can really lead this offense. Like that's a lot to ask. And he's not really that guy right now. Like that's not the way he plays basketball. I mean, you could see that he played basketball at a very young or at a very older age, that he was a football player. You can see that in his game. He's not necessarily like a smart player in that way. He's just uber athletic. Um, and so yeah, I think he can. I think Anthony Edwards can scratch maybe top 20 player. Maybe like a 25, 5 and 5 or something like that. And he wasn't even that far off last year, but it's about the consistency. It's about leading an offense, and I just don't know who can do that on this team. And it would have to be him for them to be really good.
he's probably number 1 in the league, like taking the worst shots. Where like I'm like, there's no way that, and then it goes in, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh my God.
yeah,
So if he can learn that a little bit, I just really don't trust Cat. Like,
yeah.
I don't think I think that's kind of a rough draw to have those 2 guys together. I don't think they really complement each other all that well.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be more excited and I wanted to put them higher because I do think Gobert is going to be really important and will help fill a lot of those things that Cat didn't bring to this team. But I think somewhere end of the playoffs, maybe play-in tournament. I think that's probably more likely where they're going to end up. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Yeah. So that's kind of, our thoughts on the Timberwolves. Let's talk about the Mavericks. I have a feeling that you have kind of similar thoughts as me, as to why you predict them where you did. So maybe you talk about why you put them there.
I think we need to start bullying their front office into getting a better team around Luka. Because I think it's definitely a better roster than what the Lakers have, but without Luka, this team probably wins like 25 games.
100%. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's complementary players in a sense, but it's really a lot of like sixth and seventh men.
Yeah.
And the Christian Wood fits kind of weird enough that they're not even going to start him. And like Dinwiddie's fine. And it's just like Luka deserves better than this. And I really wanted to put them high. Like I really did, but there's just I don't know. I just don't think they can get there, unfortunately.
This is a team that really could have benefited from a Gobert trade. Honestly, like if it was Luka and Gobert, there might not be two superstars that would complement each other better than the two of them. If you really think about what Gobert brings to the table and what Luka brings to the table, like I kind of feel like that would be great. I mean, but yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, they lose Brunson for literally nothing. Not that Brunson is a sort of world beater, but he was the second best player on the team last year. Now he's a valuable player. Now he's gone. We have Christian Wood, whatever. I mean, he's fine. I don't imagine him as much more than like 15, 18 points off the bench, no defense.
We haven't seen him on a competitive team be good,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It is what it is.
I mean, yeah, and then we got Tim Hardaway Jr., Spencer Dinwiddie.
That's your third scoring option. Third scoring option, Tim Hardaway Jr.
That's what I'm saying. It. Exactly. And then, I mean, I don't know. Like, honestly, the player I like the most on their starting lineup besides Luka is Dorian Finney-Smith because he knows exactly what he's there to do and he's consistent about it. And that's what this team lacks is consistency and real anything outside of Luka Doncic. So it's hard to put them higher than I think I have them at 7. And that was me pushing it, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I have them at 8, and it's starting to remind me of the LeBron teams when they just couldn't really find a way to put guys around them. They don't really have all their draft picks because of the Porzingis trade. And the best way for this team to improve is almost Luka gets injured and they can draft someone high in the draft. Because otherwise, I don't know, maybe you can trade for Bradley Beal or something like that. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a sad team. They're fun to watch still because Luka can still do all these things, but it's kind of a sad team. I mean, how many times are we going to run it back with this and just hope? What are you going to hope Luka averages 35? Like at some point, you got to give some help,
That's exactly. Yeah, I fully feel the same way. I mean, Luka, we could put Luka in for 35, 10, and 10. This team's not getting above the 5th seed. It would be so hard for this team to get above the 5th seed.
I think the conference finals exit is probably where this team caps out at as it's constructed now. And that was with Brunson, who is your second best player. So
exactly.
Take him off, and what do you have left?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, let's stop burying the lead. I mean, this is ridiculous that you have the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Memphis Grizzlies, the number 2 seed Memphis Grizzlies last season at number 7 as in your power rankings. That is ridiculous. That is crazy.
So we can agree the team overachieved last year, right?
I mean, in the regular season, yeah. But I think in the playoffs, they did exactly what we thought they would do. I don't know.
Exactly. So they almost lost to the Timberwolves, right? Like that was
sure.
If Cat doesn't have like tantrums on the court, he's like basically like slapping himself to get him back in the game. They probably lose that series, and then they go up against the Warriors, where win 6 games, but it was just completely overmatched. Whenever the Warriors wanted to beat the Grizzlies, they could. So it's the same team. I don't know. Ja's great. I worry about his health. I think we've kind of seen it before, right? Like, I hate to say it because I love John. He's John Wall. He's
I
John
mean,
Wall.
all right, I wouldn't say all that.
Let's call a spade a
No,
spade.
no, I
I
wouldn't
love John.
say he's John Wall. I
He's
think
John Wall.
no, I think
He's John Wall.
I think he's got a better understanding of the game of basketball than John Wall. I mean, John Wall's a good passer. I think Ja's also a really great passer. I also think that John Wall got hampered by injuries. I don't think he was ever really a bad player. I think even when he got injured, you'd still say he's probably top 5 point guard in the league. I mean,
Yeah.
Ja
No, he's great.
was like what All NBA first team last year. Like we're just gonna. I mean, he was just a third year player. He's just gonna get better. Like I don't
I
know. I can't
think
see it.
he's gotten really lucky with all the injury stuff. That really worries me. Bane is good. Dylan Brooks is your third option. Now I'm starting to sweat a little bit. You know what I
Sure,
mean? We
sure.
saw Dylan Brooks
Yes,
in playoffs. He's like, you're
yeah,
starting to sweat. And it's like, I don't know. You don't really add anything to this team. So the team's kind of stale. They talked a lot of shit in the offseason. There's like kind of some weird stuff going on out there. And I think this is the year where Ja stops being the guy that everyone loves and we start to overanalyze him a little bit. Like we're probably going to end up doing with Anthony Edwards, like happens to a lot of these guys. And I think this team is kind of one that will like let that shit get to them. If they start off slow, then people are like, "Oh, last year they played so much better without Ja. This is weird." And it's just like
but 7 is
I don't
so
know.
low. But 7 is so low. Like
Yeah, but
7
you look
is
at the teams above them,
playing,
and they're
but 7 is
the only
playing.
yeah, but the only team that I put above them that I think you could make good you can make solid arguments, but I think the Wolves are the only team that definitively
I think the
you could make an
Mavericks have
argument
a
for.
worse roster. Just they have a worse roster, and yeah, Luka's better than Ja, but is Luka better than Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane? Like that's not true. Taylor Jenkins is one coach of the year. He's great. Their infrastructure is
No,
great.
yeah.
They kill the draft every year. They can even make a trade. They have because they keep hitting on these late first rounders and early second rounders. They have so much value. They could package Brandon Clark, Dylan Brooks, and a couple firsts. They could go get themselves a star at the deadline. They, if LeBron if
Okay.
LeBron asks out, if KD asks out, they could be right there.
And they don't want to go to Memphis. But
Sure.
okay, so if you're going the top teams, Warriors, Nuggets,
All right,
Pelicans,
wait.
Clippers,
Let's save it.
Suns.
Let's just save.
I,
Let's save
I'm
that
I'm
list.
not yeah, but like those
Sure.
teams are all better. Those teams are all going to have a lot easier time scoring in the playoffs. And the Grizzlies were a great regular season team. But you know what really helped them out? They had a ton of depth in a year that there were a lot of injuries. And so you had all these guys who could fill in, and it was great in the regular season. And then we got to the playoffs, and we're like, Dylan Brooks is taking 20 fucking shots a game. Like, no wonder they almost lost to the Wolves. You know what I mean? Jaren Jackson Jr. is great on defense. I don't really trust his offense. I love Bane and I love Ja, but you're building around two small guards.
I mean,
It's
I just
fine.
think that I
It's
value the
Bradley
playoff.
Beal and John Wall all over again. Oh my God. It's the Wizards.
I value the playoff experience. I think continuity is it matters a lot in the NBA now. I mean, we were talking about it in the last pod, the Warriors, that infrastructure, the Bucks, who we think are going to be the best team in the league, the Celtics, who made the finals last year. All of them benefited from having infrastructure. These guys playing together, that chemistry has to matter. I don't know. I just can't see them all the way down. I hear you. I hear what you're saying, but 7 is just so low to me. I can't put them there. But I
Okay.
mean,
I hear you.
all right. And
I just
then
don't think that I think they're a little overrated. I think they're a little overrated. I feel good about where I have
do you have the Nuggets in here too? Before we move on,
them. No, no.
So who
I
was
had
your
the Nuggets.
last team? Who was your last team? Who am I missing?
So I went. I had Blazers, Lakers, Mavericks, Grizzlies, Wolves in that order.
Oh, got it. Okay, sure.
Man, that's
And then
really low for the Nuggets.
Yeah. So yeah, I do have the Nuggets in this tier. I mean, I
That's
don't
really
like
low.
I don't like the roster. I'm worried about kind of how is Jokic going to play. This might sound dumb, but I mean, Jokic has benefited these last 2 seasons playing with a bunch of nobodies. Playing with guys that shouldn't be on NBA rosters. Now that we're reintegrating Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., they're going to need the ball. Jokic doesn't do well off ball. Neither do Murray or Michael Porter Jr. Okay. And the last 2 seasons, his MVP seasons, Jokic has been a great dominating usage heavy guy. And I know he's a great passer, and I don't doubt how great he is. I just kind of fear the overall mesh of the team, the chemistry implications, and also just general perimeter defense. We're looking at a backcourt of Jamal Murray and Will Barton, not great. Monte Morris off the bench, not great. They got KCP, okay, is solid. Aaron Gordon's fine, and then Jokic is not as big of a liability, but not a great interior defender. So I'm not looking great there. I get that 6 might be a little bit low, but I think it's hard for them to take a step forward if Michael Porter Jr. doesn't take that step forward, and he's shown no reason for us to believe that he's going to be healthier or better this season.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I think the last 2 years when it was very heliocentric with Jokic, that was out of necessity because they're throwing out goddamn G League guys to play with him. And like I hear the argument that you're making, but I think that is the if there's one guy who can move the ball around and keep everyone happy, it's Jokic because he's an unselfish superstar. That's what he wants to do is pass the ball and make plays for other people. And when you add back in Jamal Murray, and this team is just so well built around him, in my opinion, where you
Really?
have Jamal Murray can spot up and then run the offense when you're off the bench. Same with KCP can get spot up shots. You have Gordon, you have Michael Porter Jr., and then you actually have a real bench. You have Bones Highland, Bruce Jones, Jeff Green, save DeAndre Jordan. But besides that, like that's 8 real guys that are in a playoff series I trust or semi-trust, save Aaron Gordon. But I don't think that's the right argument to make because Jokic's whole game is moving the ball around. I think he's going to be pumped that he doesn't have to like do everything on offense like he's had to do for the last 2 years.
I mean, yeah, maybe I am like overstating it a bit, but also I don't know. I think they don't have a real second star, and all the teams I have above the Nuggets, I think they just have multiple stars, and I think it's really really hard to win if you don't have another star. So I don't
I
know.
think Murray can be that, but I think Murray and Michael Porter on any given night could be that star if
I
they're both
think
healthy and coming
Porter.
back. So it might be a slow start, but once it gets to the playoffs, Michael Porter Jr. was averaging 20, shooting like 40% from three, and
I think
Jamal Murray was
Porter is
on
not gonna.
fire in the bubble.
But Porter's not going to play more than 30 games a season. He just hasn't done that. Like
Well,
I,
that's tough. Okay,
I
yeah,
just,
I
I
mean,
mean, like,
yes.
how long we're gonna wait? Like, there's like no highlights to watch of him because he doesn't play any freaking basketball. And Jamal Murray is great, but he's a 6 foot guard. Like, he's gonna get bullied in the playoffs. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but
Dude,
I
you just
can't see
shooting
the ceiling.
flames in the playoffs. No, I think this. I almost wanted to put them as my finals pick. Like that's how much I believe in this
Wow,
team because
wow.
this is like going to be such a breath of air for Jokic to have all these guys who can cut, who can shoot threes, and a couple of them who can make their own offense. And they were what were they like? They were hanging around 4 or 5. I think they ended up 6 last year. So you think like I don't think that team gets worse. That team gets better, way better, in my opinion.
I think the rest of the West has just gone better, and I don't know if they're competing at that same level. That's just how I feel. I can't see them in that elite group personally. Um, but yeah, maybe I mean, go ahead and prove me
All
wrong.
right, we don't have to agree.
Yeah,
This
but
is
if
a
Michael,
good
yeah,
bet for us because I think the Nuggets are going to be really good this year.
all right.
I think they're
Well,
going to be
let's.
really
I
good
mean,
this year.
if Michael Porter Jr. plays more than 40 games, maybe I'll be proven wrong. But until he does that, I feel safe in my bet. So, all right, let's move on
But
to
I
the
still
final
think
five.
the last point, and then we can move
Okay,
on.
right, okay, all right.
Yeah, last point, and then we can move on. Is there are a lot of guys here now who can like do things that are not just like. Uh, there are a lot of NBA players here. KCP and Bruce Brown are real NBA players. Jeff Green's a
Sure.
real NBA player. Gordon's a real NBA player. You didn't really have that the last couple of years. I think that makes a huge difference.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. Final five. I think this is
Your "we'll
probably.
see" is just. I think you're full of shit. That's what you mean when you say "we'll see."
I can't see it. I can't see it. I just
Okay, that's
I
fine.
think your feelings on the Memphis Grizzlies are my feelings on the Nuggets. And I love Jokic. I think Jokic is one of the most fun superstars to watch, but I don't know. You're asking so much. All right. My final five. I think we're
Okay.
gonna start to get some heated debate. So at five, I have the Phoenix Suns, and truthfully, if I had more balls, I would put them lower. I would
I
put them
agree.
lower, but I just can't. They were just so good last year. So I have them at five. I have the Clippers at four. I have the New Orleans Pelicans at three. I have the Memphis Grizzlies at two, and I have the Golden State Warriors at one, which I don't think is a hot
Holy
take,
shit!
but I feel
Okay.
yeah, yeah, I know. All right, let's hear yours.
So weird enough, we have almost the same list.
That is
I have the
ridiculous.
Suns. I have the Suns at 5. I have
Okay.
the Clippers at 4. I
Yeah.
also have the Pelicans at 3. And I was so ready to come in here guns a-blazing
No,
on the Pelicans.
that was
And
mine
then
too.
now you're on it too.
Yeah, that was. Oh, I can't
And
believe you
then
came
the
up with this
Nuggets.
independently.
I had the Nuggets 2 and I had Warriors 1.
Wow, I cannot believe this was the take I've been saving, and I was so
I
excited
know,
to
me
just
too.
to go. Oh my
Yeah.
god, that is crazy. All
They're
right,
super
well,
underrated. It's crazy.
they are. They're
Suns.
great.
Let's
It's
talk about the
crazy.
Suns.
All right, the Suns. I mean, like, listen, if we're ranking vibes, it cannot get worse. It just like the only thing that could get worse if we find out Monty Williams had an
Oh no.
affair with with a team employee. That is the only way it could get worse. This this team, listen, no one wants to be here. All right, Chris Paul's been through this. Robert Sarver, those documents are horrific and terrible, and he deserves the worst things in life. And poor Chris Paul, guess what? He's got experience. He go in the locker room. He goes, guys, I played in a playoff series while this happened. Yeah, his name was freaking Donald Sterling. All right, and I know exactly how this
Yeah,
shit
of course,
goes.
CP3.
Yeah, and so I don't feel good about that. Monty Williams in press conferences, I don't talk to my guys in the offseason. What the fuck does that mean? That's concerning. That's weird. That's weird that you would just say that. You don't talk to them at all. There wasn't like, oh, crazy in the group chat. It was just dead this offseason. We were just no one sent a clip in, no TikToks. That's ridiculous. I mean, DeAndre Ayton's like, I'm just here to not get fined. He's Marshawn Lynch in every press conference already after he signed the supermax that he lost out on $20 million or whatever it was to not sign it the year before. He's pissed about that. He doesn't want to be there. And on top of that, Chris Paul was awful the elimination game that we last saw him in. And he was actually awful for half the games in the playoffs. And he's going to be 39 by the end of the season. Okay. This is not a young guy. He's only regressing. And honestly, it's crazy that it's taking him this long to get bad. And we've seen what a Devin Booker led team looks like. That's a 20-win team. That's a 25-win team. So, I mean, I don't know. It just everything about this team screams that they are going to be freaking awful. That they're going to be bad.
And at the same time, they're pretty damn talented, right?
Yeah.
It's so like because you're saying all these things, and I'm looking at my list, and I want to put them lower. And they're one CP3 injury away from being a playing team.
Yeah.
But they were the ones they were killed. Like they were
Yeah.
so damn good the last couple of years. But
Yeah.
CP3's probably over the hill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Crowder doesn't want to be there. So
No.
now Cam Johnson gets a boost up. Ayton doesn't want to be there. I think the window's closed. I think that's it. I just don't think they're a serious finals contender. I don't know how you have that much disarray around your team and then figure it out and switch it. It's bad vibes.
It's more likely we see a DeAndre Ayton trade to the Mavericks this season, I think, than we see them be a top 4 seed in the West. And
fuck it, dude. I'm putting them in the plan. Like, there's no way. There's just no way they're fine.
They're so talented, but actually, when you take CP3 off this team and you look at the pieces, who is driving the ship? What are we like? Devin Booker? I don't know, man. I don't know. I
have more faith in Booker. I like Booker. I think he turned a page. I do like Booker, but it's just like outside of that, okay, Mikal Bridges, and then what other piece you're going to get excited about because they either don't want to be there, they haven't proven it yet. You know, that's a tough situation.
I mean, I have them at 5 out of respect to how historically great they were last year. They were a very, very, very great regular season team. But God, I wish I could put them lower. I wish I could have it take like Scotty Barnes top 5 player in the league next year. But unfortunately,
you know what? I put them lower. So
yeah, fair enough. I mean, Clippers, we could just, I don't know, a lot of uncertainty, but team's deep. And Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
Man, it's a little bit too deep.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't know. Like, they're just, I mean, you got Kawhi and Paul George. Like, what are we supposed to do with that?
So, okay. So here's what you're looking at. Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Kawhi, Marcus Morris, Zubac, John Wall, Powell, Batum, Covington, Kennard, and Mann. That's 11 guys.
Not even Brandon Boston. I love Brandon Boston. He's great.
Moses Boston. Brown, Amir Coffey. That's a lot of guys. You don't need all those guys. And you know who's going to end up taking the most shots? It's fucking Marcus Morris, because he always does. You know what I mean? And Reggie Jackson. Like, there's 3 too many guys on this team. It's so talented. I really want to see Paul George and Kawhi healthy and playing again and not in the bubble. At the same time, I wanted to put this team higher, and I just couldn't because there's too many guys. There's too many ball stoppers. Everyone thinks they should be playing in the last 10 minutes, and it's a different team, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of that Celtics team that was all these guys. Look at all these guys, and no one's happy. And you know what? This is the common denominator. Fucking Marcus Morris. Get him off the team. You don't need him on the team.
I mean, this is another team that Mike Conley's going to get traded to before the end of the season. I mean,
that's what you need. Is like you need like a 4-for-1 or something to clear some of this up. You know,
this is who would be great on this team? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Be fantastic on this team. So, I mean, I understand that. I'm not really trying to put in I'm not trying to project exactly what their moves are going to be, but they have moves to make. They can sustain an injury that they're almost due to have. They have one every time. But, I mean, it's just Kawhi and Paul George. They're the best two-way guys in the league. They're going to be great on defense. They're going to be fantastic on offense. They have a real closer. We can't put them lower than 4.
I agree. I think they're it's weird to say they're a known quantity because we haven't really seen them. But with all these guys, we know who all these guys are. I don't have questions about who all these guys are. I'm more worried about what point of their career they're at and if they're going to be happy with not playing, because 3 of those guys that I talked about are not going to play, and all those guys expect to play. So we'll see.
We'll see. All right, now we got to talk about it. This is crazy. I can't believe we both had the same take. This is all right. We gotta change the game plan because I was gonna come in here guns blazing, ready to blow your socks off. But the New Orleans Pelicans, man, I can't be higher on them. I just can't. They're gonna be so good, and if they're bad, I know nothing about basketball because I don't understand what they're missing, besides experience and cohesion. That's it.
So here's even your point to that is there were what they remind me of is they remind me of the Suns from a couple of years ago, where they really come on at the end of the season, right? And they make a nice run in the playoffs. They really gave the Suns some trouble in that first round. Then they add a guy for the Suns that was CP3. For them, they're getting back Zion, and he's in shape. He's happy, he's
Exactly.
smiling, and like all this
Exactly.
stuff. There's just not that many holes in this roster. You have defensive guys, Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels and Alvarado.
Oh
You got
my God,
Ingram and
Dyson Daniels.
CJ.
Yeah.
Like Jonas is here. Can we get Devontae Graham off this team? It like makes me like
Yeah.
that's where I start sweating. It's like thinking about Devontae Graham pulling up from 33 feet while like Ingram and Zion are waiting on the wing. Once we get him off the team, man, like you said, they don't have any holes, and this is going to be the team that's like, it's young, it's new, we got Zion back, like let's fucking go. They're going to have a great regular season. I think they're a really tough out in the playoffs.
This is the craziest part of all of it. The actual craziest part of all of it is on top of all this talent that they also have a freaking treasure trove of draft picks from the Lakers and the Bucks. And that Lakers pick that they have, if things go poorly for the Lakers, could be a top 4 pick, top 3 pick. Hell, they could get lucky and win the lottery and get Wembanyama and Adam to Zion. Like they they are well equipped now. They're well equipped in the future. If the season starts going hot, they have arguably one of the best assets in the league in the Lakers first round pick this year to move and go get any guy. You know,
And the
if Damian,
contracts too. You
they
have
have the
Nance and you have
contract.
Graham in the
Yep,
contract.
they have the depth where they can trade away those contracts and still have a well-rounded roster. If Damian Lillard in November starts getting upset, guess who can come in with 3 firsts? Dyson Daniels, Devontae Graham, and Alvarado Holiday. Then no one's beating that package. Like there's just
Are we
no
doing
way.
Lillard and CJ again? Dame Lillard and CJ.
I guess that's fair, but like, I don't know, Zion. I mean, yeah, like
I
that
see
is that.
what you're saying. Though. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and just like Zion, the last time we saw him was one of the most unstoppable offensive forces we've ever had in the NBA. Like watching Zion Williamson play made no sense. He was like a bowling ball. He's like a modern day Charles Barkley. And now you're adding him and he's in this press conference. I love hearing it. The vibes are great, actually, in New Orleans.
if there's like the Suns are here, yeah. The Pelicans are up here.
Exactly. You got Zion talking about how he's figured it out. He's figured out his life. I love basketball. That's what you want to hear. I want to hear my superstar.
Look at his face. If you just look at his face and how cut it is compared to what he looked like 2 years, it looks like a different guy.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
Exactly.
So my concerns. Well, I don't want to rain on the parade too much because I'm so pumped for this team. This is going to be one of my favorite teams to watch. My concerns are Zion. How do they integrate him into the offense? Now, could he just be like the best possible version of Draymond Green? You know what I mean? Where it's like he's doing all the connected things, he's shooting threes, he's running screen rolls. Like, could he just be that? Because that'd be kind of awesome. And the other thing I worry about a little bit is Jonas kind of becomes it's a luxury that do you really need it now? You don't really need Jonas on this team. Do you just want like a rim running guy?
Yeah.
So I guess you could put Jackson Hayes in there.
That's what I'm saying.
That's one of my
That's the best part of the team is that they already have a rim running guy. But I see what you're saying. Yeah. But they could just move them. They could just move them.
So that's the only part that makes me a little bit nervous. Besides that, man, this team's gonna be great. I'm so excited for this team.
Yeah, I'm so excited to watch. I hope Zion stays healthy the whole season. I want to see it, and I think there's going to be a lot of Zion proving people wrong. And he had to sit all of last year, listen to what people had to say about him, and this is it. But I'm ready to bet Zion MVP. Honestly, like this is what we got to do.
One of the worst worst takes from last year that I heard from like real media people was should you trade Zion? Like,
Yeah.
no, you shouldn't fucking trade Zion. What are you out of your
No.
goddamn mind?
Yeah.
You sell low on like a guy that 2 years ago we thought was like a generational player. Yeah, he
Still
gets
is
hurt and selling low.
Yeah. Awful.
So,
All right. We don't really need to talk about
all
the 2
in.
seeds. Yeah, all in on the Pelicans. We don't really need to talk too much about the 2 seeds of or either of us because it's the Grizzlies and the Nuggets. We already kind of hit on that. So I guess it's just the Warriors. I mean, listen, vibes not great. We're gonna be honest, not great. Draymond,
a little weird.
Yeah, we're recording this at a time where we still don't really know exactly where the team stands. They said they were gonna fine Draymond, but not suspend him. But if there's a coach that I trust to figure out, and if there's a team infrastructure that I trust to sort all of it out, it'd be the Warriors. Okay, and truthfully, at this point, Draymond Green is luxury. They don't need Draymond Green to be out there. Honestly, they just don't. They have prepared very well for life without Draymond Green. Their young players could easily take a step up. I mean, I think that Clay and Draymond are going to regress. Steph, who knows? I mean, he's great. He's top 5 in the NBA. But they got Moody, Poole, Kuminga, all going to take steps. Wiseman, we didn't get to see him at all last year. He's going to take a step. These guys, hungry, ready to take a step up. They're going to take all these guys' spot. I mean, they can't ask for more. You can't ask for more. What more do you want? Like, they're coming off a championship.
Draymond not to punch Jordan Poole. That's what
I mean. Yeah,
want.
No, that's 100% valid, and that's something they're going to have to deal with. But despite that, they're just too darn talented. It's just insane how talented they are.
So I'm very much with you here. This is my finals team.
Okay.
Because you won the chip last year and you got zero production, nothing out of the 3 lottery picks you had in Kuminga, in Moody, and in Wiseman. And I think those are going to be real guys for them this year. So you lose Gary Payton and you lose Otto Porter, but you're replacing them with DiVincenzo and those 3 guys. Now you feel pretty good about that. Like, that's probably better than what they had last year. Clay gets like a full off season of like really being able to play, not just, train the whole time. And so now that you have all those other guys, you can give Curry some nights off, and Wiggins is kind of starting to figure out more how to like play with the Warriors, and we really saw him tap into that. Where
100%.
We were watching the game together. Remember, we were watching the game together. We were like, is Wiggins going to win this fucking game? Wiggins won that game, and they wouldn't have won that series. But Wiggins was, I'll say it, he was the second best player, not on the team. He was the second best player in that series.
100%.
Wiggins outplayed Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the fucking finals, and that's why the Celtics lost. Anyways, the only thing that can blow this team up is Draymond. And I push back a little bit because I think Draymond is very, very important to this team. When you're playing basketball, you're playing pickup, like, you always need the guy who's going to get rebounds, who's going to move the ball, who's not going to complain, and who's got that fucking alpha in it. You know what I mean? Because that's not what any of these other guys in the starting line. I mean, Curry's an alpha too. But, Clay and Wiggins and Looney are so I think Draymond is really important. And if he's going to get fucking selfish and start doing all this crazy shit, that's the only way that I think this team doesn't make it back to the finals, because they're more talented than they were last year.
Sure, but I mean, I trust Steve Kerr, and he's given us every reason to trust him. And I trust these guys to figure it out. I mean, if this was a young team, if this was what we were hearing out of the Pelicans, I wouldn't trust it. But I just have to trust the Warriors and what they got going on over there. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt until they prove me otherwise. And so I can't put them lower than 1. And I think I have the Bucks as my finals pick, but the Warriors are right there with them. So
I'm hearing you on that one. Yeah. No, I just think they're better than last year. I think Moody's going to be like a real guy for them. Mm-hmm. I think he's probably going to end up playing most of the minutes that we think are going to go to DiVincenzo. Mm-hmm. And, like, when stuff like the Draymond thing happens, like good organizations can sustain that. And I think it's gotten to the point where those guys have been together for so long that when Draymond does some shit like that, like they didn't really think it was a big deal. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That was the
100%.
whole thing out of the Warriors camp. It was like, that's fucking Draymond being Draymond. Like, what are you
Yeah,
gonna do that? And us on the outside are like, whoa,
yeah,
and they're all just like, yeah, it's kind of is what it is. But it works. It works
yeah.
for them.
All right, let's run through one last time. We're gonna wrap up. Let's just go through our power rankings one last time. You want to start us off?
So I had 15 Spurs, then Thunder, Jazz, the Rockets, the Kings, the Blazers, the Lakers, and I switched my list around. I put the Suns at 8. Fuck the
Wow.
Suns.
Okay.
Fuck the
Yeah.
Suns.
Yeah. There you go.
Mavericks at 7. Bumped up. The Grizzlies are at 6. Wolves at 5. Even now, as I'm looking at that, I'm like, man, that's really high for the Wolves. Whatever. Clippers at 4. Pelicans 3. Nuggets 2. Warriors at 1.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I mean, one of us has to have the Suns down there after what we were all saying. So I have the Jazz 15, Thunder or the Spurs 14, the Thunder 13, the Rockets 12, the Trailblazers 11, at the Kings 10, Lakers 9, Timberwolves 8, Mavericks 7, Nuggets 6, Phoenix Suns 5, LA Clippers 4, the Pelicans 3, the Memphis Grizzlies 2, and then the Golden State Warriors at number 1. And so quickly, you just want to say kind of our finals matchup, what you think your finals matchup's going to be? You have Milwaukee, Golden State.
I've been going. I reserve the right to change this. I think it's because I want to say Milwaukee, Golden State, but I feel like that's just kind of the pick that everyone's saying.
Sure.
So, yeah, I guess. Yeah, we'll do that. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean that's what I have too right now. I mean, I think they're just a tier above. Like I just that's it. So all right,
those are the best two teams.
Yeah, they're the best two things. All right, thanks for listening, guys. Appreciate the support, listening to our West Power rankings, and we'll be coming to you guys with more videos as the season unfolds and kind of reacting to things as they come. So see you guys later.
All right.